Hello, everybody. Welcome to Unit 4, Day 7. Today, we're going to talk about the Second Great Awakening. Now, in this class, we've already talked about the First Great Awakening. And if you remember with the First Great Awakening, we did talk about the impacts on the church, but we also talked about the big impact that the First Great Awakening would have on the United States, well, at the time, the colonies and the people in the colonies. And the effect of that First Great Awakening, if you remember, was that it really did lay the societal foundations for the later American Revolution, because it got people questioning the church, which when you got people questioning the church, that also meant they would start questioning the government at the time, because those two things were so intertwined. Now, with the Second Great Awakening, you're going to see that it has a large impact, not just on the church, but I would argue even more so on society during that time. With the Second Great Awakening, you're going to have less of an emphasis on like emotional spirituality and focus more on, again, just reforming the church. And again, this whole idea of revival and that kind of thing. But with this Second Great Awakening, you're going to see that women start to take a lot bigger of a role within the church. You start seeing women assume leadership roles within the church. And again, women, if they can lead there during this time, that starts getting people questioning, well, where else can they lead in society? So you're going to see that women not only lead in the church, but they also start to lead in other more charitable efforts in organizations and that kind of stuff during this time. So you're going to see that with this, women get a much bigger role. Now, you're going to have the start of several movements during this time. One of them, the temperance movement. That would be the movement to get rid of alcohol in the country. You're going to have the abolition of slavery movement really take off during this. And then partnered with that is going to be the women's movement. Because you're going to see both with the temperance movement and in the abolition movement that women are going to be very, very involved in those. And you can't blame women for this, for looking at this and saying, hey, if we get involved in these areas, that is eventually going to mean that we can get involved in things like politics and go along with things like that. So with the Great Awakening, you're going to see the biggest part of that is going to be women assuming a new role within society and taking more leadership positions. And I would say, talking about the church aspect of it, you even see that today in the church, that women take a lot of leadership roles within the church. So women, and you can really trace that back to that women have started taking those roles during this Second Great Awakening. Now, along with that, you're going to see a large focus in this on slavery and the efforts by people, even within the church, to change and do something about slavery. The most famous of these people would be William Lloyd Garrison, who would start an anti-slavery paper called The Liberator. And with that paper, William Lloyd Garrison, his whole focus was on the idea that if you were a Christian, that you should be against slavery, because he said if you look at the Bible, especially the Old Testament, it very clearly speaks against slavery. So he went at that from that perspective. That's why we should get rid of slavery, because at the time, majority of Americans would have said they were a Christian. He said, hey, if you call yourself a Christian, we should not have slavery anymore. And going off of William Lloyd Garrison, you're going to have guys, men and women like Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, and others who come out from the African American side and really get mobilized to do something about slavery and to fight against that during this time. With that, you're going to see a large amount of discussion with this is on the Nat Turner Slave Rebellion. I've thrown a link into the slides presentation there to a documentary, PBS documentary. It's about an hour long. I encourage you to at least watch the beginning of it, where they talk about Nat Turner Slave Rebellion and talk about the effect of that. But really, with your discussion board post today, you're going to see the focus is on the legacy of Nat Turner. With his slave rebellion, you're going to see that he goes into houses, him and his followers, they go in, they kill white men, women, and children. And a lot of people are going to have a very, very big problem with that, and are going to look at him in history and say, man, this guy is a villain because of the way that he went about doing things. He shouldn't have killed women and children. Other people would look at it and say, hey, he was in a desperate situation and felt like that he really needed to do something, and this was a way to get people's attention. So I encourage you to look at that, watch that PBS documentary about that. Also, read the accounts from the Confessions of Nat Turner. Those are very, very interesting. and then answer that discussion board about what your thoughts are on Nat Turner. Is he a hero or is he a villain? There's no wrong answer in this because really it just depends on your perspective. I've seen people all over the board the years talking about this, about their thoughts and what they thought about Nat Turner. So again, I encourage you with those to read and really watch those and check those out. So, and like most history is kind of messy, and this is one of those things that's messy, how people view him. So, again, the Second Great Awakening has a huge cultural impact during this time, and we're going to see, again, it really feeds in with the women's movements and other things going on in the United States during this time. So, as I always encourage you, have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.